The show starts with an epic battle scene, where several soldiers fear the corpse god. Corpse god, a necromancer, uses dead souls to accumulate his powers and perform sorcery. The deadly necromancer attacks the soldiers, slicing them in half until the legendary hero arrives. Shagrua Adith Lugrid, the Calamity Crusher, arrives with his subjugation to defeat the corpse god. The skeleton form villain fights the protagonist, using his magic projections to hurl deadly attacks, such as dragon monsters and skeleton army, towards him. While all the fellow accomplices of Shagrua feared his death, he remains steady and uses his precise sword skills and magical powers to maintain a good fight with the necromancer. During the fight, Shagrua reminisces about his past, having the ability to see dead souls since birth. He recalls how the soldiers took him in childhood, and he has since become a strong knight, fighting many evils. Shagrua comes back to the present and fights the necromancer using the help of sorcery. He then reveals to the corpse god of sharing the same eye of the evil, that makes them both able to see dead souls and hear the wails of the souls of the ones they have killed. However, the necromancer chooses to toy with the souls of the ghosts he sees and use them for evil. Shagrua identifies the center of the skeleton necromancer, a brain capsuled under a glass box, and tries to attack it. The corpse god casts a huge spell around him, unknown to Shagrua. Shagrua jumps into attack, using a counterspell with the help of his fellow female accomplice. A huge explosion happens as the two spells collide, Shagrua's magic overpowering and penetrating through the necromancer's spell. When the dust settles, the necromancer's skeleton collapses. The necromancer opens his eyes to a different world, reincarnated in the body of a 16-year-old boy. The corpse god tries to adjust to the new body and form and decode what happened. He wakes up in an alley in Shinjuku City, confused about modern architecture and technological advancements. The body corpse god resurrected into is killed by some assassin, having the throat slit and neck all covered in blood. Meanwhile, a stranger detects the boy's body coming out of the alley through cameras. He informs the assassins to kill the boy again, making sure he doesn't wake up this time. The corpse god walks around the city with a slit throat and a blooded shirt. He sees a screen and thinks of it as a projection spell. He then notices the people around him and assumes that life in this new world is peaceful. Suddenly, he is interrupted by two police officers. At first, he fails to understand their language, but he quickly adapts the memory and information stored in the body of the boy he resurrected into. He automatically starts understanding the language of the corpse and involuntarily introduces him as Polka Shinoyama. While he is talking to the police, a girl interrupts him and grabs his arm, stealing him away. The girl takes Polka into an alley and introduces herself as Misaki Sakimiya. The corpse god tries to recall the girl's face from the stored memory of his new body, but fails to do so. That is until she takes her weapon and reveals she is here to kill him. He finally remembers Misaki, the same assassin girl who slit the throat of Polka's body. A stranger looking at this whole scene through a drone camera encourages Misaki to complete the task as they have been tipped for killing the 16-year-old boy. The corpse, now known as Polka, runs away from Misaki and hides in an abandoned building. He tries to find dead souls in the new world to channel his powers, but he hardly finds them. Misaki, on the other hand, is well equipped with weapons and skills as she easily hunts Polka down. Misaki attacks Polka with knives. To her surprise, Polka showcases good dodging skills. Polka escapes again and ends up in an abandoned torture room. Misaki follows him there and reveals that the place is isolated as it is rumored to be captured by ghosts. While Misaki brags about her genius of bringing Polka to a place that people fear entering, he smirks in victory, being able to sense the ghost dead souls. The corpse god channels all the energy of the dead souls and uses powerful magic to attack Misaki. He kills her on the spot and looks forward to living his new life. Back in the other world, everyone celebrates Shagrua's victory. Shagrua seems unsatisfied as he recalls that the spell that the necromancer last cast before his attack seemed to be a transportation spell. He suspects that the villain is still not dead, but shoves the thought away. The corpse god recalls being born with the evil eye that snatched away his peace from him. He always saw dead souls and had a terrible past. His parents sold him away to evil sorcerers, and he grew up to become a necromancer. The corpse god always wished to live peacefully, away from his life as an evil necromancer. He made new friends in the past, despite having a skeleton face, and fell in love with a girl in his friend's group. However, his fellow necromancers sacrificed the life of the girl he loved. Since that day, the corpse god had turned to vengeance and become evil. He made a labyrinth filled with all the corpses he had killed. He then learned more about sorcery and dark magic, and spent centuries waiting for someone to kill him so he could be resurrected into a more peaceful life. His wish was fulfilled when Shigurua came and finally killed him on the battlefield. Polka, the corpse god, sees Misaki's body lying before him, scared that he might have accidentally killed her in one stab. Polka fears that the murder might get him on the run, and he will fail to have a peaceful life. While all this happens, the same stranger witnesses the whole scene through the camera of his drone that was following the two everywhere. He then calls his superior, Clarissa, and updates her on the situation. On the other hand, Misaki also has a flashback, reminiscing about her happy childhood with her parents. That is, until her parents were brutally stabbed right before her naked eyes. Since then, Misaki has become a ruthless assassin, killing other hitmen and evil people. She avenges her parents' death, killing the man who murdered them. Misaki was working under Clarissa's team, a group of expert hitmen and assassins who kill people for work. Misaki then remembers Clarissa giving her a task to kill a normal 16-year-old boy Polka, instead of any evil person. Misaki had agreed and slit Polka's throat, which had gone unsuccessful. The stalker stranger, known as Takumi, who was her helper on the same team, was guiding her through the camera. Flashback ends. Misaki opens her eyes and thinks of her as dead. To her surprise, she sees herself alive after remembering being stabbed. She sees Polka sitting beside her, revealing that she has been resurrected. The scene rewinds 40 minutes before Misaki's rebirth. The stranger introduces himself to the camera as Takumi Kuruya. He talks about his business as an info broker, an all-rounder stalker, and hacker who helps assassinate killers and help hitmen hide bodies with the help of his camera drone. Clarissa arrives at the abandoned place with her guards. She sees Polka doing some magic on Misaki. Upon asking, Polka reveals that he is using a healing spell to wake her up and plans to cast a resurrection spell on her. The whole magic talk confuses Clarissa and her team, who don't believe in any such thing. They start doubting Polka for feeding them with lies and attempting to fool them. But Polka uses his soul magic to create a strong, powerful attacking mechanism on the team. The scene is interrupted by sirens. Takumi informs Clarissa that the Shikuzuo building has caught fire in the neighborhood. Clarissa fears that the kids in the building might be in danger. Polka asks her out of curiosity about the sirens and the situation. Clarissa reveals that the Shikuzuo building had a nursery that looked after orphans and kids of working women. Polka remembers his old friends, who were also young kids, and asks Clarissa to take him to the location of the building. He intends not to see any children going through such pain and trauma. Clarissa agrees and takes him to the building. Polka uses his magical powers to jump over the buildings and penetrate through the one that had caught fire. He jumps in to save the children. Polka sees the dead souls of the parents of the children and uses their help to save them. He jumps in and out of the fire easily, surprising everyone. However, people notice some skeleton bodies in the fire, which were of the dead souls summoned by Polka. Takumi witnesses the whole scene from his drone and wonders what Polka is to be able to perform such magical acts. He warns Clarissa to be careful around Polka, a possible monster. Clarissa confronts Polka, who tells her he is searching for peace. Clarissa suggests he earn money to get peace. Polka tells her about his identity as a necromancer and reveals that he needs to learn more magic and use souls for a peaceful life. Clarissa introduces herself to him as Lisa Kureki and offers him to join their group. Once Misaki regains consciousness, she reads the news from the day before. She becomes overjoyed upon discovering that mysterious ghostly shapes were captured on video during the fire at the building where Polka rescued the orphans. Polka, Misaki, and Takumi move into one place together, owned by Clarissa. Takumi wonders if Misaki feels comfortable spending time with the person who caused her death. Interestingly, Misaki finds the current situation very thrilling, which is not surprising given her troubled past as a mentally disturbed serial killer who was on the brink of suicide before being killed and subsequently revived by the corpse god. While Polka continues to make sense of his world, he reads a lot to gain more knowledge. He tells Takumi that he hunted the real Polka's family and made them believe that he is not dead, but instead is on a summer trip. He further talks about his past life, revealing his true form and the horrors of the other world. In his talk with Takumi, he also shares his plan to find out who was behind his assassination, aiming to secure a peaceful life. Polka also adds that he can converse with the real ghost of Polka, which is captured in Takumi's drone. The only person who had contact with the culprit is Clarissa, but she refuses to disclose the identity of the contractor. Polka is willing to investigate the situation by himself and sees pressuring Clarissa to reveal the truth as a last option. He opens up to Takumi about his past life, being completely honest. However, he is eager to discover how to utilize his abilities to make money. Fortunately, a man seeks Misaki's assistance in evading hitmen. The corpse god promptly accepts the task, and they head to the designated place later that day to carry out their mission. Unfortunately, the group is trapped as some gang members unexpectedly ambush Misaki. She gets killed again by one of the assailants while she is engaged in a fight with other gang members. However, she resurrects into her body. Polka then explains that Misaki has become a zombie, meaning she cannot be killed. Together, they battle against each gang member, defeating them individually. Eventually, the corpse god turns into his enormous skeleton form to crush all the enemies, forming a massive mud ball. Two detectives, Tsubaki and Kuzabaru, who specialize in supernatural cases, are introduced. Meanwhile, Polka informs Misaki that her bites now possess a paralyzing effect. Naturally, she eagerly decides to use it and bites Polka's shoulder, causing him to collapse. When the paralyzing effect finally disappears, Polka wakes up and has random conversations with Takumi. They briefly think about the chance that the world where the corpse god originally came from and the current world he is in might be connected somehow. At the same time, Misaki remains thrilled about finding useful ways to utilize the paralyzing effect of her bites. Polka thinks that Misaki now uses her paralysis ability more frequently. Takumi reminds him about the gang members he just fought and killed. However, to Takumi's surprise, Polka reveals that he didn't kill them, but only made them unable to move. Polka's commitment to not taking lives leaves Takumi astonished. Polka also mentions that the gang members won't be able to harm anyone in the future. In another place, Tsubaki and Kuzabiru are called by the police to investigate the crime scene due to the clear occult evidence present. The police department holds a meeting to investigate recent crimes and miraculous activities. They find the footprints of the most wanted dreadful criminal, Lemmings, at a crime site. They thoroughly discuss the events of the Shikuzawa building fire and draw the suspects, including the possible inclusion of the ghosts caught on camera. As Tsubaki addresses the meeting, he reassures everyone that there is no involvement of anything supernatural, but it is all done by humans, which makes them easy to be defeated. Polka transfers the soul of real Polka into a stuffed toy and encloses it with his new roommates. He needs to create vocal cords for the stuffed animal to speak and for real Polka to communicate well with them. He adds that he needs excessive energy to generate mana, needing more dead souls and exorcism to create magic. Takumi says there is no such place with many souls, but Polka answers that gemstones, such as sapphire, worked as mana stones in the other world. Polka wishes to collect all these gemstones by channeling his magic, but his dreams are shattered when Misaki takes him to a jewelry shop and shows him how expensive the stones are. Polka is stunned to learn the price of the stones. He decides to work and earn more money to buy the gemstones. On the way back from the jewelry shop, Misaki and Polka encounter Kuzabaru, who captures the drone revolving over them. He is after the criminal Takumi. On the other hand, Tsubaki visits Clarissa at her bar and confronts her about his team finding the drone of her gang member. He asks her to surrender and accept her crime involvement and partnership with the info broker Takumi Kuruyo. Polka tries to talk to save Takumi by asking the officer to let go of the drone, but Kuzabiru refuses and instead warns Polka to stay out of trouble, being a young kid and befriending the wrong people. Polka gets furious at Kuzabiru for questioning his friend and deeming him negative. Polka channels his energy to push the officer away. Takumi talks to Misaki and Polka through earpieces and warns them of Kuzabiru's renowned powerful fighting skills. He asks the two to avoid talking to the officer. Before Kuzabiru can interrogate Polka more and find out his secret, Takumi calls the officer to distract him from the interrogation. However, Kuzabiru is clever in deducing the apparent distraction. Amidst the distraction, Misaki attacks Kuzabiru and escapes with Polka. Later, Takumi calls Polka and thanks him for standing up for him to the cop. The two share a moment of bonding. At the police station, the officers discuss the case of Lemmings, a legendary monster who was undefeatable and was involved in the worst crimes. Tsubaki drinks at Clarissa's bar and refuses to leave without having her confess. He asks Clarissa to admit that a suspected Grim Reaper is working with her and that she is involved with criminals. Clarissa acts clueless and chooses not to answer. She worries about Polka being detected by the cops. The worry heightens when Polka and Misaki enter Clarissa's bar to meet her. Takumi sees Kuzabiru proceeding toward Clarissa's bar through the cameras. He quickly informs Polka through the device to escape the building before Kuzabiru sees him. Unfortunately, Kuzabiru sees the kids there and tries to confront them. Both the officers gang up on Polka and Misaki while interrogating them. Just as Polka and Misaki decide to escape, suddenly the lights go off. But before they could escape, a man jumps in, surprising everyone with his unexpected entry. He resumes as Lemmings enters the scene, ready for a fight, but Clarissa knows he doesn't intend to harm anyone. With his evil eye, Polka sees numerous ghosts surrounding Lemmings and realizes he's responsible for their deaths. Lemmings launches a powerful attack on the officers, tossing them aside effortlessly, while Kuzabiru's attempts to fight back prove ineffective. Lemmings grabs Misaki, causing Polka to consider using his magic to retrieve her, but he worries about exposing his abilities to the officers. Despite Kuzabiru's attack, he is no match for Lemmings. Tsubaki tries to look around the surroundings, but Clarissa covers the candle, dimming the light. Polka saves Misaki with his skeletal arms, suggesting they escape, while Tsubaki uses the flashlight on his phone, enabling him to see the skeletal arm. Lemmings advances at Polka, who returns the attack with his magic to subdue him. However, Polka's attacks fail to land, as Lemmings can see clearly in the dark. Lemmings break the skeletal arm, releasing Misaki and causing her to panic. To everyone's surprise, he whispers something to her, and they start conversing casually. Misaki attempts to paralyze Lemmings with her saleva and stabs his leg with a fork, leaving him weak. Drawing power from the souls haunting Lemmings, Polka uses the mana to cast a spell. He summons his colossal skeleton to attack Lemmings, forcing him to flee. Following the encounter, Lemmings informs his boss, Takoru, that Polka is still alive. Polka expresses gratitude to Misaki for her assistance, and Misaki replies that he would have done the same. Upon returning home, Polka shares his desire to understand and learn more about their world. To accomplish this, Polka decides to establish a business using his magical abilities to generate income. He impresses his friends by demonstrating how he can make a soul possess a pen and write its ideas on paper. Displaying the business sign, Polka presents himself as a fortune teller, utilizing his power to have souls write future predictions and earn money from people. Initially, Takumi disapproves of the idea, but eventually agrees to participate. Takumi conducts research and provides valuable information about the clients to Polka, who also employs his evil eye to gather additional insights from the spirits. The earnings are divided among them all. Takumi tells Polka that a group of men has entered their room and reveals that Polka came from a wealthy family. The twins, Kazuki and Shizuki, greet the men and call Polka their uncle. Polka wants to trick them, so he covers his head and claims to be the corpse god, but the twins think he's strange and don't believe him. Kazuki believes Polka ran away because people around him manipulated him. Polka sits with them, wanting to try their fortune-telling, but they tell her to leave. Kazuki refuses to leave and insults them by calling them peasants. This leads to an argument with Takumi, but her bodyguards intervene because they suspect Takumi might be recording the conversation. Takumi continues to provoke her, but Polka stops him when he sees Kazuki about to cry. Polka hugs the twins, assuring them they have a future and promising to protect them. While hugging, Polka communicates with the spirit behind the twins, telling them not to worry. The spirit pleads with them to help the children. As they leave, Polka realizes that the spirit is not evil, but has become partially insane. Takumi provides information about the Shinuyama group and reveals that Polka is the second son of Rosen, who is the head of the family. If Rosen passes away, Polka could inherit a share of his wealth. Takumi speculates that someone ordered a hit on Polka because of this, assuming that a relative wants him dead. Takumi warns Polka that going home could be dangerous, since he has decided to visit his family. Polka mentions his bodyguards from his past life and considers Misaki a suitable candidate for a bodyguard. On their way home, the twins meet Takeru, who asks about Polka. The twins inform him that Polka is returning home. Takeru looks forward to seeing him and cautions the twins to be careful, mentioning an accident that happened to their sister. This revelation suggests that the spirit following the twins is their deceased sister. Polka and Misaki visit the Shinoyama house, which is huge and magnificent in size. The twins welcome them, and they are greeted by Takeru, who inquires about Polka's companion. To his surprise, Misaki politely introduces herself, showing elite mannerisms. Later, the entire family settles for lunch in the dining room. Misaki creates a fake story of how she knows Polka, lying that he once saved her life. More information about the Shinoyama family is revealed in a flashback. Polka is the son of Rosen's second wife, and Takeru is his nephew. Takumi had warned Polka about Takeru, the president of the infamous Shinoyama security group. Polka tries to tell the shark toy on his shoulder that had read Polka's soul to know about the family. Suddenly, the 79-year-old Rosen enters the dining room, asserting and reminding everyone that he is the house boss. Takeru's wife Kiri says he shouldn't be walking around with his help. Polka immediately apologizes to his supposed father for running away from home. However, Rosen is simply happy that his son is back. He then invites Polka to his office. Rosen talks casually, making Polka think he is doing a good job pretending to be the real Polka. However, Rosen suddenly takes his sword out and asks Polka who he is, since the man resembles and sounds like Polka but isn't. Polka acts confused, but Rosen says that a father can never fail to recognize his son. Rosen asks if his real son is still alive, but suddenly Polka senses that something is wrong and the twins are in danger. Polka mentions that he has promised to protect the twins and has to leave, but he will tell them everything later. After he leaves, a mysterious girl in the room says to Rosen that he should have killed the imposter Polka. An explosion is heard in the distance, and a flashback cues in. Kazuki tells her sister Suzuka that she lost her favorite bag in the forest and wants it back. Suzuka smiles and decides to help her younger siblings as she leaves for the forest to find the bag. She finds the bag there and sees her cousins plotting against the twins. Suzuka rushes back to warn her siblings, but the cousins catch her sneaking on them and burn her to death. It is Suzuka's spirit that follows the twins, trying to protect them. The flashback ends with one of the guards taking the twins to save them from the fire caught in the house. The man claims to have a backdoor emergency tunnel to evacuate, but the spirit of Suzuka cries for help, not trusting the man. On the other hand, Tsubaki and Kazabiru pay a visit to a man known as the Phantom Solitaire, Tena Sorimura, in prison, to inquire if he knows anything about the Shakuzawa fire incident that happened before. They suspect that the fire incident might be the fire-breathing bug's doing, an old wanted criminal. They'd also generate the theory that the fire-breathing bug man disguises himself as someone else to gain trust and get close to his targets. Back at the mansion, Kazuki suspects the guard seems fishy and refuses to go through the tunnel he has been referring to. The man reveals his true intentions, and Suzuka tries to stop him, but she cannot. The man advances on the twins when Misaki heroically appears and kicks the man away. The man reveals his true face, taking the disguise mask off, and intends to kill the twins. Misaki instructs the twins to get away as quickly as possible. The man, revealed to be like a fire-breathing bug, uses his electric powers to set the room ablaze. The man then states that the twins can't escape the fire and leaves. Meanwhile, the twins hold each other and keep themselves low, remembering their sister and carrying the guilt that they sent her to the forest that night, which led to her death. The twins are ready to accept death as their fate in the fired roof almost falls on the twins. Polka comes in to save the day, using his skeletal arms to catch the fired roof. Polka reassures the twins that they don't have to feel guilty about her death since Suzuka is not mad at them. The cousin who had planned the murder of the twins is traveling in his car, assuming that the fire-breathing bug man has probably done his job to burn the twins. Suddenly, a bike stops next to his car, and the biker punches the cousin. Back at the incident, the fire-breathing man is disguised as a housemaid now and is shocked to see that the twins have survived the fire. He tries to run away, but Polka catches him and confronts him. Polka can see the spirits of the servants the man killed and stole faces from. Misaki arrives again and kicks the man, now making it a 2-versus-1 fight. The man claims that he can't be destroyed, just like bugs who keep coming back. The man launches another fire attack at them. While Polka tries to decide how much mana he would need to cross the fire safely, he notices another body's presence. It turns out to be Lemmings who defeats the man but then hushes Polka and Misaki to stay quiet about the incident. He leaves the two baffled. The man is arrested by the police and is taken in the police car. He is devising a plan to escape when suddenly the real fire-breathing bug appears and threatens the man who was pretending to carry the title. The man starts going crazy and burns himself in the car, causing an explosion. A mysterious girl stands on the bridge, watching the scene and singing a lullaby. Lemmings meets Takeru and tells him that Polka reached the twins before he did. Takeru inquires more about the incident. At Rosen's place, Polka requests privacy to reveal his true identity as Corpse God. Corpse God Polka explains everything to Rosen about him being an otherworldly creature who reincarnated in Polka's dead body, which Misaki killed. Misaki says that Rosen can rightfully kill her, and she will gladly accept as he is a good man. Rosen notices the shark toy and recognizes it as Polka, happy to see his real soul happy. Rosen decides to help Corpse God Polka and Misaki. He also forgives Misaki as she saves his grandchildren from the fire. The twins rush over to thank Misaki and Polka for saving them. Polka tells them that the credit goes to the fortune teller, Corpse God, and a guardian angel that protects the twins. In the Tokyo police station, Tsubaki and Kazabiru tell the Phantom Solitaire Tina Surimura that the real fire-breathing bug burnt a patrol car and the man acting as his imposter. Solitaire tells them the bug just attacked a man who was mimicking him. Solitaire then asks for another look at the fire incident viral video, but the officers refuse to show him. This triggers Solitaire, who uses his magic to turn the lights off and disappears, escaping the prison. An emergency meeting is held at the police station where Tsubaki and Kazabiru discuss Solitaire's past crimes. Solitaire uses magic and illusions in his past to commit crimes. That includes his most famous crimes when he abducted the Japanese Prime Minister and the opposition party leaders. Solitaire hasn't hurt anyone or asked for money or gain in return for the kidnapping. Instead, he wants to prove to the world that magic exists. He turned himself in after he was tired of doing the tricks. Meanwhile, all the radio channels in TUV News report the news of the police car explosion. Polka and Takumi hear it on an antique radio that Polka bought. Polka immediately recognizes the news of the same man who tried to burn the twins. At the police station, the TV reports the same thing when suddenly another channel appears and starts broadcasting the confidential fresh news of the escape of the Phantom Solitaire, Tina Surimura, from Tomio's prison. Tsubaki and Kazabiru are stunned to hear the news being reported without access to media. Meanwhile, Takumi explains who Phantom Solitaire is to Polka and others. The officers switch through channels, all broadcasting the same video news of the same mustache male anchor, announcing the Solitaire news. Suddenly, the male anchor starts revealing himself to be Tenno Surimura, the infamous global magician who announces his return in a week. Solitaire asks all the viewers to wait for him and ends the news with a catchphrase. The news channels switch back to the actual news stations, where the actual anchors themselves are confused as to what was suddenly started to broadcast. Tsubaki and Kazabiru deduce that Solitaire used the help of the grocer to hack all the news channels and screens around the city and broadcast his comeback. They'd also suspect that all the criminals join hands to help each other, like the grocer and Phantom Solitaire. Solitaire stands on the rooftop at night, talking to someone to team up with them. The person carries an umbrella that says fire and safety. The person is revealed to be the real infamous criminal, the fire-breathing bug, who communicates to Solitaire through a phone despite standing steps away from him. As Solitaire offers to work together, the fire-breathing bug attacks him with firepower. Solitaire uses his genius magic tricks to dodge attacks as the two engage in a skillful duel showcasing tricks and powers. After being unable to defeat one another and drawing one conclusion, the two seem to ally. Back at their place, Takumi, Polka, and Misaki talk when suddenly they hear a knock on the door. They open it to see Seo Shinoyama, the shark-obsessed relative Polka, met at the Shinoyama house brunch outside along with the guard. She asks Polka to let her crash in. Seo, having invited herself to Polka's place, introduces herself to Misaki and Takumi. She tells them that she is a niece to Polka and continues to introduce her attendant, Shoyule. Seo remembers Misaki from brunch, so only Takumi introduces himself. Pola inquiries Seo about her sudden appearance and carrying a huge shark-shaped sleeping bag. Seo answers, revealing that the recent house fire incident burnt Seo's room, ruining all of her shark toys and plushies. She then plays a recording of Rosen on her phone, who requests Polka to let the two guests stay at his place because of the fire incident. Rosen also hints that he needs someone at Polka's place to trust him. Polka still feels a little threatened as his murder mystery still falls on the Shinoyama family, making Seo a suspect too. Polka sleeps on the couch, while Seo sleeps peacefully in her comfy shark-shaped sleeping bag. Takumi and Misaki decide to clean up a room in their abandoned building for the new guests and buy mattresses for them to sleep on. Seo meanwhile takes up the opportunity to caretake both Seo and Polka as a Shinoyama guard. He stays awake all the time to keep an eye on her. Seo cooks breakfast for Seo when Polka inquires why he has been assigned as Seo's attendant. Seo replies that it is because the two share similar-sounding names. Seo also asks Polka not to visit the mansion as the police are heavily investigating it. At the Shinoyama mansion, Tsubaki and Kazaburo arrive to investigate. They suspect the involvement of the fire-breathing bug in the recent fire incident and try to find clues. Takeru interrupts the investigation to confront the two men who look far from police officers, having tattoos and piercings. Takeru, along with his bodyguards Taipi and Bao, approaches the officers and inquires about their presence, since he thought the police had finished interrogations and investigations the day prior. The officers tell him they are here to investigate the possible involvement of a fire-breathing bug. They ask Takeru if he has noticed some odd presence, which he denies. Takeru instead crossfires them, taunting them for the escape of the phantom Solitaire, questioning the credibility of the police and criminal department. The incident led to a stock spike for Shinoyama security. Later, Tsubaki and Kazaburo talk when Erase discusses Takeru's creepy-looking guards, who wreaked trouble and danger. They figure that the two were killers of Takeru. Afterward, at the police station, the department works on the Shinoyama family, pinning their family pictures on board. Erase recognizes Polka, Rosen's son and heir, as the same kid he met in the alley with a girl. They'd also cracked that Polka and his glasses-wearing female companion, Misaka, could have a rift with the Shinoyama family. The two suspects, Polka and Takeru. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Takeru gets aggravated at the officers being extra nosy in the case. Bao asks Takeru if he wants him to be taken care of, but Takeru stops him from doing anything. Takeru plans to wait and see Iwano unravel Polka's truth for him to see too. Takeru also knows that his grandfather, Rosen, has been plotting something. Sato and Shideo are given an empty room with mattresses and other necessities. The two thank Takumi, Misaki, and Polka for their help, and for letting them stay. Later, after Seo has slept, Seo activates his internal microphone, which he uses to tap the conversation between Polka and his acquaintances. Seo stands outside his room and hears the conversation between Polka, Misaki, and Takumi, who discuss putting up their fortune-telling drama for the new guests. Polka talks about his past life, too odd and otherworldly for Ixayo, who assumes they are talking about video games. Ixayo is revealed to have a vendetta against Polka. He doesn't trust the imposter in Polka's body after sensing that he is slightly taking over Rosen. Seo also feels jealous of the real Polka, thinking he could be a better son to Rosen than his actual son. Seo then goes into a flashback where he remembers getting into an accident, his parents abandoning him. He then remembers a conversation he heard in the hospital on his bed between his parents and Rosen. Seo feels grateful for Rosen, who took him to his place after the accident. Tsubaki and Kozeburo find out about Polka's new place and decide to pay him a visit for a fortune-telling session. They arrive at the place, and Takumi immediately hides under the table from them.
Later, when Tsubaki and Kozeburo visit Polka, Takumi hides beneath his desk. Tsubaki wants Polka to predict his fortune. Polka talks about Tsubaki's current position in the police division that he is viewing on Takumi's computer monitor through a quadrupedal eyeball. Polka then mentions a painful scar in Tsubaki's past that will haunt him if left unhealed. Polka states, "Your torn-off wing shall spell out a signpost for you," when a pencil hovers and starts writing something on a paper. The writing is being done by an unnamed soul. Tsubaki reads the message, grabs Polka, and demands answers. A flashback scene comes in. A man named Miyabi Hosoroji tosses a younger Tsubaki a pack of Marabos, his favorite cigarette brand. In the cigarette pack is a piece of paper which has a symbol drawn. Hosorogi burns the paper and says that the symbol is both the signpost we must follow and a one-way ticket to death. The flashback ends. While Tsubaki handles Polka roughly, Polka denies knowing anything about the symbol the pencil drew. Tsubaki regains his composure and gives Polka money for the session. Shiroyu finds Tsubaki's reaction unusual and suspects a connection between the written symbol and Polka's secrets. To snoop around, Shiroyu pretends to go shopping for dinner ingredients. During lunch at a restaurant, Kozaburo asks Tsubaki about his earlier behavior. Tsubaki confesses that he lost control, which surprises Kozaburo since it's unlike him. Elsewhere in a burning building, a mob boss unlocks a safe to retrieve something important. He finds a rolled parchment scrap, but as he turns around, he sees a man with a fire safety umbrella. The fire-breathing bug, Phantom Solitaire, also emerges from a burning stack of banknotes to steal the parchment, made from skin, with a familiar-looking symbol drawn on it. Back at the hideout, Takumi inquires about the detective's behavior, but Polka remains clueless about the whole situation. At Lisa's bar, Nikyayu eavesdropping and hiding, and Kozaburo listen while Tsubaki questions Lisa about the symbol he saw during the fortune-telling session. He points out that Lisa has a connection to Polka, who drew the symbol. Only their mutual friend, Hosorogi, knew about the symbol. Hosorogi was a pressure to Lisa and fellow inspector of Tsubaki. Polka tells Misaki, Takumi, and Sayo that he doesn't know what the soul, which belonged to Hosorogi, wrote because Hosorogi said he would take care of it himself. Tsubaki feels conflicted about Lisa involving a child like Polka, as protecting children has always been important in community safety since Hosorogi's time. Lisa claims she didn't recruit any children. She's simply letting Polka use her building as a favor and to gain favor with the Shinoyama group. Tsubaki believes that Hosorogi is alive and suspects that Lisa is hiding him. After tour Tsubaki and Kozaburo leave, Lisa's workers, Koruto and Izuna, inquire about the possibility of corpse god Polka encountering Hosorogi's soul. Lisa reassures them that this situation isn't a major issue. Takumi is surprised to discover that Hosorogi was an internal affairs inspector. Hosorogi apologizes for his message that led to Tsubaki to grab Polka and admits that the message relates to one of his past regrets. Polka informs Misaki and Takumi that he had made a pact with Hosorogi, promising to help resolve some of Hosorogi's regrets in exchange for his services. Dressed as a security guard, Phantom Solitaire returns to Tokyo Penitentiary to acquire information about the symbol from the grocer, the incarcerated supposed fifth-generation head of a century-old family mercantile business. Grocer mentions recognizing the symbol and is willing to accept valuable information as payment. Solitaire provides 2 pieces of useless information, but Grocer offers a free product sample. The symbol resembles an old Central Eastern European Knight Order's insignia, with one of its diagonal lines representing a sword. Grocer is open to negotiating the full product's price based on Solitaire's circumstances. On the morning of Solitaire's scheduled comeback performance, anticipation runs high. A radio channel host announces breaking news from Shinjuku, where many flying blimps bearing the symbol drawn by Hosorogi appear across the city. Polka is shocked to recognize the symbol as the emblem of the fallen empire from his previous world. Polka looks at the symbol on the blimps and has a flashback where he remembers being in the imperial palace of the Baiandi Empire. A young boy named Easily Sword Frail points to a banner with the empire's emblem and tells Corpse God known as such, yet that this symbol represents the empire where Corpse God will live. The young emperor mentions that he redesigned the emblem when he became the emperor. In the present, members of an organization discuss online about Solitaire, revealing the symbol and fire-breathing bug harming their comrades. They conclude that this blimp stunt will endanger Phantom Solitaire's life. Tsubaki and Kozaburo talk about the symbol. Tsubaki finally shows Kozaburo the message they believe Polka wrote during a fortune-telling session. Tsubaki thinks that if Solitaire is behind the blimp stunt, he must be connected to either Hosorogi or the people Hosorogi was chasing because of the symbol. Their discussion is interrupted by a fellow assistant who informs Tsubaki that the top Metropolitan Police HQ is currently looking for him. On the flip side, Solitaire relaxes in a chair, reminiscing about his meeting with the grocer. A flashback occurs. When Solitaire inquires about the price of the information he seeks, Grocer astonishes him by quoting a whopping sum of 3 trillion yen. Grocer reminds Solitaire that if he focuses on accumulating wealth by any means, he could amass 6 trillion yen. In simpler terms, Grocer believes that the symbol is worth half of Solitaire's projected ideal earnings. In the present, Solitaire is reclining near a radio on top of a blimp when a gunshot rings out. 2 assassin siblings, Rini and Hirio Horojima, are ordered to shoot Solitaire. However, their plan fails as it turns out that Solitaire had placed a mannequin on the blimp to fool everyone. Later, Solitaire broadcasts the footage of his mannequin's death on the Solitaire channel. He explains to the audience that his dummy was shot just 58 minutes after the blimps took off. He speculates that an organization with snipers is behind the assassination attempt due to the symbol leak. Solitaire offers a Y300 million reward to anyone with information about it. Takumi and Polka both look worried as they watch the live stream end. Suddenly, Seo enters the room and inquires about the corpse god, having overheard their conversation about reincarnation. While Misaki is hesitant to reveal the truth, Polka decides to provide a condensed version of his past story, hoping that Seo won't believe it and will move on. However, to their surprise, Seo accepts the whole reincarnation story because she had already suspected the fake Polka's behavior. She then expresses her sadness about her uncle's murder and leaves the room to take a shower. In the shower room, Misaki joins Seo and confesses that she was the one who killed her uncle. Surprisingly, Seo chooses to forgive her and believes that her uncle Polka would have forgiven her too. Misaki and Seo return to the room, where Misaki reveals that she analyzed the behavior of the shark lover and concluded that she is not the one responsible for her uncle's murder. Takumi inquires about their next course of action. Polka shifts his attention to Solitaire, questioning how he obtained knowledge of the emblem. Takumi proposes using a spell to seek information from the ghosts, but Polka discloses his fear of confronting the ghost souls, having endangered their lives in the battle before reincarnation. In contrast, Takumi decides to conduct his own investigation by searching for police officers potentially involved in Solitaire's care. Hosorogi also aids in their inquiry, cautioning them about the darker side of the police force. Meanwhile, Tsubaki meets Jirotaro Takasu, the Metropolitan Police Superintendent General, who assigns him the task of investigating Phantom Solitaire. Takumi breaches the police computers, obtaining information about Jirotaro. Solitaire learns from a secret intel by a trusted person named Nani that someone in Shinjuku is hacking the police system to access all the information. He rightfully suspects Takumi to be behind it. 4 individuals sit in the waiting area for fortune-telling sessions with Polka. 2 dissatisfied Tokyo detectives complain about the integration of Shinjuku into the task force, particularly disliking Tsubaki leading the team. In the fortune-telling room, Polka talks to Shouta Yamanura, a middle-aged man, but it's actually Solitaire in disguise. Solitaire asks about the symbol, which has a 300 million yen reward on it. Polka says he can't identify it, but he senses something wrong. Hosorogi draws the symbol, which shocks Solitaire. The pencil draws the actual symbol, which lacks the horizontal line through its center that the symbol on the blimp had. Solitaire had purposely added the line to find out the actual people who know the symbol. Teller mortal knows her. Side Solitaire recognizes 2 girls from the waiting earlier, one in a raincoat with a fire safety message. He instantly knows it is the fire-breathing bug who is also investigating the symbol. After the Solitaire task force meeting concludes, Kozaburo and Tsubaki discuss the investigation. Their moment is disrupted when the 2 disgruntled officers from earlier start a fight with Tsubaki. Kozaburo steps in and threatens them to defend his partner. The fight halts when Tozawa and Ramaru Yatsu and Senior Commissioner Habaki joins them. Polka dreams about his past, recalling the day a massive sinkhole appeared in the imperial capital, swallowing all army units except General Darrell's from the Empire's control. She noted that despite Corpse God's older appearance, he remained childlike. Unlike most others, she believed that Corpse God had unlimited time to grow up and should learn to value those with limited time. The dream then out to be his grandfather's bodyguard. While Takeru speaks, Lemmings observes the rooftop fight from an even higher rooftop. Tinastare discuss Polka's identity on the call and ask him about who he is. Instead of responding, Corpse God scans his surroundings to locate the individuals responsible for the message on the wall. He senses two people on the rooftop. CIO pauses to question Solitaire's presence and asks if he wants to know about Hosorogi. Solitaire, having no clue, uses this opportunity to fabricate a story about knowing Hosorogi. Suddenly, Lemmings drops in from a higher rooftop. CIO suspects a connection between Lemmings and Solitaire. Lemmings turns his attention to Solitaire. Romelka teases Isliz, who is thinking of Corpse God. Isliz explains that raising Corpse God was her main contribution to the Bayandi Empire. Romelka admires their unique mentor-pupil relationship until Isliz hushes her. She adds that Corpse God is kind, but lacks personal will. In the present, Polka climbs the stairs to assist Saoyu with invisible hands. He uses invisible hands to hinder hanging on to a large balloon. Yatsu sees Solitaire and reaches for his phone to call Tsubaki. One of Takeru's men records of Solitaire notices the invisible massive hands pursuing him and Lemmings. The man agrees they must search for this power using all available means. In his pajamas at home, instructs Yatsu to secure things are getting interesting. The TV displays footage of massive hands in the city, and the sister's slow smile reveals her fangs. Thank you for watching.